dogs go. Get the dogs. Come here. Stop for a minute. Hey, get back here. Hey, come here. What you doing? What you doing? Come here. Hey, come here. Welcome back to another edition of One Time for Your Mind. I'm not the host today, but I have a very special caller. You heard him before. He's bringing some very heavy material. Like I said, this is definitely a treat. I'm bringing my man Ziggy Earl back. And like I said, we're covering the number. He's covering the number 13, the fear of the number 13. Ziggy, welcome back to the show. Tell us about yourself and what you got for us, brother.
I appreciate it, Tate, man. Got me back here on the show again, podcast once again, and I'm going to cover the number or the fear of the number 13, and we're going to basically go through that and deal with that today. Once again, I appreciate Tate having me back on podcast, and I'm going to go ahead and go into it. Well, people who are listening, we're going to cover the number 13, the fear of the number 13, and we're going to go over the term, which is called Triskaidekaphobia. Many people may not have heard about this, or they may have, but for those who have not covered this or ever heard of it, I'm going to go ahead and kind of elaborate more on what it is. It's basically a phobia, of course. It's a fear that people suffer from. And I know there's plenty of fears and phobias that people may suffer from. I'm actually, I'm a human being. I have fears too. I'm afraid of spiders. It's called arachnophobia. Many people know about that. I don't like spiders. Some things out here, insects kind of creep me out. And spiders are one of them. And there are many phobias out here, from Triskaidekaphobia, which is the fear of being cold, being too cold. You have Wiccaphobia, which is the fear of witches, and zoophobia, which is the fear of animals or a specific kind of animals. You have pathophobia, which is the fear of disease. Claustrophobia, which is very common. Being closed in tight spaces freaks people out. You have agoraphobia, the fear of fire, which is called pathophobia. But today we're going to cover Triskaidekaphobia. And
so real quick.
It all starts.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you notice, the number 13, it kind of goes back to the fear of it. It's a superstition that's coming from many different types of. It's just a real superstition going back to the Bible, the Last Supper. In the Christian population, you know about the Last Supper, where you have the 13th guest to sit at the table with Jesus. You know him as Judas, Judas the Apostle. And for those who follow that religion, they may consider the number 13 as the number to fear. And I personally don't really fear that number, but I do understand how it is to be afraid of something. So you have in Western in Norse mythology, you have the 12 gods who had a Valhalla, which in Norse mythology, Valhalla is their heaven, and it happened to be an uninvited guest. It came to the table basically by the name of Loki, the god Loki, who was considered mischievous. They actually came to the table and all bad things, just so happened to go, downhill for the world. And they're very, very similar to the Last Supper. You can kind of see the similarities through the comparison between the Last Supper and the Norse mythology story of the 12 gods having their dinner party in Valhalla. And another example is the fear of Friday the 13th. It's kind of it's going back to let's say it's another term called Triskaidekaphobia. You have these words are very, very long and hard to pronounce. But
okay, just keep it simple for the viewers, man. So basically, like I said, it's the fear of the number 13, but like I said, the scientific term, like I said, is Triskaidekaphobia. But for the listeners, if we got some underage listeners or maybe not some scholars that are listening to us right now, we're gonna move forward and we're gonna just say this the number 13, but you know what it is. Go ahead, Ziggy.
All right. Well, basically, it's a superstition that people fear the number 13, and I've been wanting to know if it's actually treatable. If people can actually treat this, such as neurobiologists and psychoanalysts, can they go into the human mind and target a specific part of the brain to maybe help cure people with this kind of phobia, that suffer from this, and or any kind of phobia, period. And I think that they could possibly target a specific part of the brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala pretty much is a small almond-shaped part of the brain that pretty much triggers what humans call fears, emotions, and things that, it just pretty much helps you be afraid of something. It's what triggers fear. And I think that if neurobiologists and psychoanalysts were to come to other limitations or whatever they have to do, they can possibly cure fear in a human when it comes to these certain kind of phobias that people suffer from. And there are so many different kinds. But since we're talking about the number 13, I'm going to talk more about what is fear. Fear is a strong... fear is a type of anxiety disorder, you know, and it's an excessive thing. It's an excessive fear. It can, it's just something that, you know, people just have, you know, and
so let me get in here real quick and piggyback.
Get kind of mixed up here.
Let me piggyback real quick, Ziggy. The number 13 is a lot of people don't know this, or maybe a lot of people, you know, paid attention to it, but just wondered that there's no number 13 floor in your apartment buildings and a lot of these skyscrapers. There's no number 13. If you ever been in an elevator, if you pay attention, it actually skips from 12 to 14. Now, logically speaking here,
right,
there is something in between 12 and 14. They just made the 13th floor the number 14. Now, with that being said, even the room numbers, there's no room number 13 either. So it goes from like 12 to 14. Right. So what they'll do, they'll put 12A or 12B or even 14A or 14B. And the 14A is actually the 13th floor, or even 12B is the 13th floor, room. Let me tell you something else that people didn't know. If you ever flown in an airplane before, there's no 13th row on the airplane. It once again goes from 12 to 14. Now, a lot of people, when they get their ticket, their plane ticket, they're just looking for their number on the ticket. They don't pay attention to that. So if I'm not looking for the seat 13, A, B, or C, I'm looking for whatever the seat is. That's what I go to. But if you get up and look, there's no number 13. So this is something that's deeper than mythology or even spiritual. But like he said earlier, it goes back to Judas, man. Like in the Christian faith, that Judas was the 13th apostle, and we all know he betrayed Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? And the story kind of goes from there. I'm sorry, Jiggy. Go ahead and jump back in there.
Yeah, it's all out of respect for those who suffer from this Triskaidekaphobia disorder. It's just simply out of respect because people do fear that number. You know, you have people that will actually be asked questions in math class and, you know, what's 1 through 20, and they'll actually skip 13 and go from 12 to 14, you know, out of that superstition, you know. And it's just out of respect when you go to these hotels and you don't see a room 13, and you get on the elevator and you don't see, you go into these big time businesses, big time corporations, and you hop in the elevator and you don't see a 13th floor. You know, it's just simply out of respect for those who suffer from this kind of thing. And which is fine, but I'm just really hoping that they do find a cure that can actually target the amygdala, which I believe is pretty much the reason why some people may have this problem. Along with, you know, there has to be some kind of way.
So let me ask you a question real quick. I know in Japan and stuff like that, the number 13 is actually considered to be very, very unlucky, like unlucky. And even though, in Japan, it's considered to be very, very unlucky. Even though this situation about the fear of the number 13 is actually imported from Western culture, so it comes from the Western Hemisphere, not the Eastern Hemisphere. So this is where we are in America, North America, South America. It comes from over here. So to kind of give you an idea that this thing is spread all the way across the world. But it started here in Western civilization, along with a whole bunch of other bad stuff. But like I said, we're not necessarily talking about that. And you got movies like Friday the 13th. Do you got anything to kind of elaborate about Friday the 13th, about the movie and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I really don't have any. I really didn't think too much about it, Friday the 13th, because, I understand the number 13th is included in the movie, but I haven't really dealt with too much of the movie Friday the 13th.
Okay, so like
pretty much the date.
So to the date, like I said, as far as Western culture goes, if you're listening to us on the other side of the world, there's a movie or a movie series called Friday the 13th, and the character I think is it Michael Myers or Jason? Is it?
It's Jason.
Okay, so Jason Voorhees, he walks around, with a machete, I think it is, and a hockey mask and all that type of stuff like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it ain't even 13 players on the hockey team. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it has a lot to do with that. But I do have some knowledge about the Friday the 13th itself. And it's Paraskevi. I can't even say it. Paraskevi, which is Greek for the word Friday. So just like any other holiday, the paganism, you got several different things put together and, under one roof and cloaked. And in this case, the number 13 was actually several different superstitions all rolled up into one. So sort of like, if somebody's watching, you're supposed to throw salt over your shoulders or something like that, or you're knocking on your woods and all that type of stuff. All that stuff comes from somewhere. And once you trace back the roots, if you can, you realize a lot of that stuff is pagan. Like, for instance, when you go to the doctor and nobody leaves without a prescription, you know what I'm saying? So you go to your Walgreens or your CVS's or even your Rite Aids. And a lot of these are, these are legal drug dealers. But I want to focus on Rite Aid for a second. Rite Aid isn't spelled R-I-G-H-T as in I'm turning right or go right. It's spelled R-I-T-E as in right. Okay, which is the root word for ritual. Okay, this is why their logo is a cup thingamabob with like a stick or something in it, because they would grind up, different concoctions and stuff like that while, muttering different things and hymns, which we now call spells. But one of the first things you learn in school to do is how to spell, okay? Like casting a spell. And to make a game out of it is a mockery. If you're good enough, you get into the spelling bee. We're too advanced a civilization to have words that are different meanings that sound alike. Like pray. You got P-R-A-Y, and then you got P-R-E-Y. You mean to tell me y'all couldn't come up with nothing else? Y'all had to use the same pronunciation, but have two different meanings? Now, with that being said, a lot of these things, if not all of them, have multiple meanings, and up subconsciously, you have to kind of do some research and dig under them and figure out what are they talking about. You know what I'm saying? If I say, why do we shake people's right hand and not their left hand? You know what I'm saying? Then you realize that left hand was reserved for all the bad things in history, like, wiping yourself. In the past, particularly the Romans would use their left hand to kill their opponents. They would never use their right hand. Now, there is an exception to the rules. If you didn't have a right hand or a right arm, obviously you have to do what needs to be done. And in today's society, if we're making a deal, if we don't shake right hands, the deal is considered actually be null and void. So let's say you owe me money, Ziggy, and I say I'm going to pay you back next Friday, right? But I say I got some grease, quote unquote, on my right hand. I reach my left hand out and shake it. And then next Friday comes and I don't pay you, and you take me to court for it, small claims court. It can actually be dismissed in court because you shook my left hand, which is not the hand of business. You understand what I'm saying to you? That makes sense to you, Ziggy? Ziggy, you see it with me, brother? I think I might have lost Ziggy. But this is the season finale. I'm trying to get him back on the line, and we're going to finish this conversation. If not, like I said, one time for you. Yeah, I can hear you now, bro. I thought I lost you, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Did you hear me, though? Did you hear me about the shaking it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very interesting, man. Don't know too much about that, but that's very interesting what you were saying. If you want to elaborate more on that, you can. If you would like to, and then we can further. So,
basically, how things become superstitions because a bad event happens and you associate it with something. Like right now, it's 2020, okay? So it's 2020 AD, and if you don't know what AD stands for, it stands for after death. Am I right, Ziggy? Okay. But after the death of who? When you say AD, who are they talking about? Christ. Okay. So if you're not part of the Christian faith, is that even valid to you? Now, a couple days before the first of the year, you have December 25th. What day is that, Ziggy? What do we celebrate on the 25th?
Christmas.
Which is, whose birthday is that?
Jesus.
So they saying that he was born on December 25th, then he died again at the first of the year. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me. This is why we dig into these things, and this is why we got the podcast rolling right now. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're kind of running out of time at the moment right now. This is the season finale. I want to definitely thank my partner Ziggy for coming on to the show. It's always informative.
Appreciate it, man.
Like I said, can't wait to have you back on the show. Season 2 is coming, y'all. Like I said, this is the season finale for this episode right here for season 1. And like I said, I couldn't have made it possible without my man Ziggy Earl. So I want to thank him again for coming to that. Other than that, y'all, one time for your mind. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you.
You